UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Yes, a very good evening to you tuned into UBC TV. We thank you so much for following all our work in terms of programs, news. Welcome back from the news, and I now warmly welcome you to this special engagement that we are taking in for one-on-one, but of course to focus on something very pertinent. Every 11th of July, Uganda joins the rest of the world to commemorate and celebrate World Population Day. World Population Day, in a brief introductory kind of perception, it is about focusing and reflection on issues that relate to population, health, development, population growth, and things like that. Issues that relate to numbers of people, why they increase, things that affect the increasing numbers of people, and all that, as we're going to see in this discussion that we're going to have today in a special way. So we are having officials from the National Planning Authority that we are going to talk to about how we are standing as Uganda in as far as the global rating of population affairs are concerned, and where we are focusing as a country. My name is Michael Jordan Lukomwa, and I warmly welcome you. I have a guest already with me, and that is Dr. Hamis Mugendawala. He's a senior manager, population and social sector planning at the National Planning Authority. Doctor, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much.
How is the National Planning Authority, and how are you generally?
We are doing work.
Most welcome to UBC TV.
Thank you.
Now, in the interest of time, give us a picture of when somebody hears about the National Planning Authority. Who are you as an institution, and what do you do?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For hosting us. National Planning Authority is a government agency under the Ministry of Finance. It's a constitutional body. It was created under Article 125 of the Constitution. And its primary function is that of developing comprehensive and integrated development plans. But in 2024, there was a merger of certain institutions with NPA, and the NPA Act of 2002 was amended in 2024, and His Excellency assented to the amendment bill, and the NPA's functions got broadened. So NPA was merged with National Population Council. It took on National Population Council functions, and as well it took on the National Physical Planning Board functions. So you can see that now the function of physical planning is with National Planning Authority, and the function of population program coordination in the country is with the National Planning Authority. That's why it's in this year, it's the one organizing the World Population Day, which is going to be celebrated next Friday on 11th of July 2025.
Okay.
Yes.
That day is mainly our focus of discussion here. Can you throw more light on what it entails and the whole celebration to somebody watching us?
So the World Population Day is always celebrated annually on the 11th of July of every year. It is celebrated by all member states of the United Nations. The World Population Day was inspired by a milestone within the global population. When on the 11th of July 1987, the world population hit the 5 billion mark.
Yes.
And the United Nations Development Program decided that on that day there is need to celebrate population and development issues.
Okay.
And so the first celebration took place on the 11th of July
1987.
1989.
89, okay.
2 years later. And Uganda has been
celebrating
since 1989. And globally, and Uganda as a country uses the World Population Day, one, to cause awareness of population challenges, population issues like concerning health, education, gender, equity issues, sustainability living. And this year, actually, Kayunga district was chosen to host this day.
Okay.
And it's going to be in Busana Town Council playgrounds.
Okay.
And His Excellency accepted to grace this occasion. Okay. He's going to be our chief guest. And it's going to be celebrated under the theme promoting population health and well-being through the parish development model.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the Ugandan theme.
Yes.
Okay. We have celebrated since 1989 as a country.
Yeah.
What is the progress ever since in as far as handling the issues that relate to population is concerned?
So Uganda has made a lot of progress from the time we started celebrating World Population Day. You are aware that now Ugandans are living longer.
Okay.
The life expectancy of a Ugandan born today is 68.3 years, up from just 45
Yes.
In 1991. It means that within the last in the last 30 years, we've added 25 years to Ugandans. And that is not a mean achievement.
Yep.
The other achievement is that the government has reduced death of children and death of mothers. Currently, we've achieved a 72% reduction in infant mortality. In 1991, we were losing around 122 children, infants, per 1,000 born. And this has reduced up to 34, which is a 72% reduction. When you look at our mothers, in 1991, we were losing 506 mothers per 100,000 live birth. But now this has reduced to 189, which is a significant reduction. Of course, no one would wish a mother to die when she's bringing life.
Yes.
But still, we have to acknowledge this kind of achievement. Now, the other is on the aspect of fertility. Previously, we saw a lot of Ugandans having families they cannot afford. This has significantly changed. People are choosing to have families that they can afford. So in 1991, on average, a Ugandan woman would give birth to 7 to 8 children. Now this has reduced to 4.5. So people are choosing families that they can indeed afford. Now, when you look at economic indicators, there has been a very significant improvement. In 1991, about 56% of Ugandans were classified as really poor. And this has really reduced up to 16.1%
by 2025.
2025 statistics from WOBOS. So there has been a very significant improvement. Now, when you look at education, of course, now you see that very many children are enrolled, close to 10 million in primary, from around 2.5 in the 90s. We have expanded access through the government policy of a public primary school per parish.
Okay.
A lot of schools have been constructed by government, and as we talk, it's about 80% of the parishes have a government primary school. And the government policy of having a public secondary school per sub-county has also increased enrollment in secondary education, and as we talk, close to 65% of the sub-counties have a government secondary school. And this is not a mean achievement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, there is progress, but as well, there are persistent challenges.
Yeah.
Ever since we started celebrating the population, even before. What are those challenges, and what kind of actions have we taken to curb the challenges?
Yeah. So every country faces challenges.
Definitely.
Even the developed world
Yes.
that we admire. In Uganda currently, we have a very big threat of teenage pregnancies and child marriages.
Yeah.
Currently, 1 in 4 girls carry a pregnancy that can be termed as teenage. So you find that children between the ages of 15 and 19, 25% of them have suffered teenage pregnancy, and it's one of the leading causes of school dropout. Then the other aspect that has stagnated is the years of schooling.
Okay.
So because children enroll en masse, but fewer complete school, the indicator of years of schooling has not improved. Currently, government is strategy is to have children in school for at least 11 years. That is 7 years of primary and 4 years of O-level. Because according to evidence, if we achieve that, then you collapse a lot of challenges in population. You collapse teenage marriages, teenage pregnancies, teenage marriages, maternal death. But we are at 6.3 years of schooling. Okay. Yet our target is 11 years of schooling. The other challenge is around the youth. You find that now a half of the youth are neither in education, nor in training, not in employment.
Not in employment, yes.
So they are termed as needs. They cannot be accounted for. So you don't find them in school, you don't find them in employment, you don't find them in training. And it's a very worrying situation, because in the last census, the percentage was around 41%
of such young people,
and now
that couldn't be traced.
The number has really increased to around 51%, and that remains a challenge. On the economic side, we still have a lot of people who are not participating in the money economy.
Okay.
So you find 33.1% of the population still living in subsistence. They're just working for their stomach,
okay,
just as the president indicates always.
So what kind of solutions are we taking as a country to curb these problems?
So there is a lot going on. As you know very well, we now have a new plan.
Yes.
His Excellency has just finished launching the National Development Plan 4. And this National Development Plan 4 carries a lot of strategic interventions that the government is putting in place to try and address these challenges. One, I told you that government is trying as much as possible to keep children in school.
Okay.
For at least 11 years in school. Now, that should be the minimum. It doesn't mean that that is the aim of government.
Okay.
But that is the minimum. And the government is doing this through construction of more schools per parish, construction of more schools per sub-county. And you also realize that in terms of health, government is constructing a lot of health centers, and if you've seen statistics has improved, majority of Ugandans now live within 5 kilometers radius to a health center. There are a lot of affirmative actions to support the lagging communities. Government is putting across a lot of strategies, like in the lagging communities in Karamoja, in terms of education, in terms of roads, in terms of health. You've seen government launched the higher education loan scheme to support young people who are bright but come from very poor communities to access higher education.
Yes.
Government has invested a lot in wealth creation interventions, including the parish development model.
All that is to come.
Which is a package of development interventions that are supposed to help, especially the lagging households, to come into the money economy.
Thank you so much, Doctor. To you watching us, we are holding a special discussion as we prepare to celebrate World Population Day, where Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate World Population Day on the 11th of July, just like we have always done every year. We are joined by Honorable Stephen Birahwa Mukitale, the Executive Board Member of the National Planning Authority. Honorable, you're most welcome.
Good evening, UBC viewers. Sorry for coming late.
It is okay.
And that confirms we still have to do a lot of work in terms of infrastructure development, because you can't take more than 2.5 hours from just Mukono here to here. But first of all, I really want to thank UBC for giving us, on behalf of National Planning Authority Board and Management, this opportunity to rally all Ugandans towards this very important event. The Population Day, more so at a time when National Planning Authority is both in charge of the population function and the comprehensive planning. And then I'm sure Doctor has already told you, the President is the guest of honor. And we are having a lot of events which are already running in preparation to that.
We shall see that towards the end.
Yes.
We are trying to get the broader picture. By the time you came in, Doctor was telling us about, we had looked at how the Population Day came in, how we have been celebrating since 1989 as a country, the challenges that have persisted ever since then, and how government and other stakeholders are trying to solve. He has been mentioning PDM, other poverty alleviation programs that government is coming in with, the construction of schools at every parish and every sub-county, that is secondary and primary, and all those other kind of initiatives. Where I can bring you in maybe is there is the 4th National Development Plan, Can you throw light on it? What is it about?
First of all, let me congratulate Ugandans that we have yet another fourth series of the National Development Plan. That's a 5-year development plan.
Yes.
To achieve the Vision 2040. And want to congratulate the President and Parliament, which launched it on the very day of the State of Nation Address. That was on the 5th of June. And in that National Development Plan 4, we are looking at, it's guided by the strategic direction arising out of the 10-fold growth strategy. We are intentional to develop our country beyond the current close to $56 billion economy to about 500.
Okay.
And that 10-fold growth strategy, we are looking at how do we be intentional in making sure that is what we are now calling the ATMs, not the money ATMs, but the agro-industry, the tourism, the minerals and oil and gas, the science and technology, and the ICT. How do we make sure that using this, we can transform the economy?
Okay.
So that the role of the state in this NDP4 is to make sure that the private sector is enabled to create the jobs, to grow the industry, to improve our domestic resource mobilization, to deal with the challenges, and this has to be related with this population day, because we have quite a very young population. We've just had a census. Again, we thank government and UBOS for the census, which has given us the structure of the population, a very young population, whereby 50% of the population is young.
Yep.
Of course, this could mean the population is we have a very high dependency, small, mature group working with so many schools going. But now, our role as National Planning Authority and as government is, how do you turn this challenge of this population structure, where most of them are school going? You can turn that problem into an advantage by making sure that since they are school going, and that's the point I found him explaining, how do you make sure that these young people who have already benefited from other government programs like vaccinations, UPE and UCE, at least they stay longer in school. When they stay longer in school, you are going to reduce the chances of early pregnancy, early marriages, and the problems that come with it. But also you're going to get people who are now more informed about their primary health care needs, their health, their nutrition, safe water, but also a population which is more productive.
Honorable, you unlike Doctor and myself, you have also been in Parliament.
Yes,
and in the circles of running the state.
Yes.
In Uganda. What do you think explains the challenges, the persistent challenges that you found Doctor explaining? Mortality rates, he talked of the young people. Actually, it is the census that gave us the figures that we have over 40% of the young people who are neither in school nor in employment, not even anywhere in training. Things like that. What do you think explains
First of all, I hope he has explained that because of earlier government interventions, there is quite some improvement.
Yes, but the challenges are persistent.
For example, the life expectancy is now 68. 20 years ago, we were only talking of 43. You realize that the maternal, the expected mothers who would die because of the risks have reduced.
Yes.
You will find that a lot of the young children are now accessing school through programs you have talked about, UP and USE. You will realize that some of us, when we were at university, that's when the 1.5 affirmative for girls was introduced, as now balanced. You find in universities, girls and boys are, in terms of numerical strengths, they are equalizing. The intentional programs, we have had quota systems in our education system. There's now students' loan scheme. So the challenges indeed are there, but it's also good that government has taken effort. In particular, most cases we want to look at the fertility of our people. Again, there is an improvement. Our mothers used to give as many as 11 children. They went to 7 recently, it was 6.2. Now about every mother has produced at least 4 children. That, because of staying so much in school, there's less fertility. But we should not just look at the population quantity as a problem. I think the debate should be, how do we make these population numbers, translate them into
where we have some figures that are stagnating when it comes to people that are stuck in poverty, those that are stuck in subsistence farming. This is what the president is talking about everywhere he goes, but still it persists. Why do you think such are still persistent in our communities?
And that's the reason why we are trying on this population day, we are trying to look at the PDM as one of the government program which is trying to target that 33% which is stuck outside the money economy. Indeed, most of the population is still in subsistence. And even when up there we are talking of agro-processing, agro-industry.
Why are they stuck there?
Yes, they are stuck there because
exactly
our people, the president calls it chidachonka. Subsistence means from hand to mouth.
Exactly.
Whatever you're doing is basically for feeding yourself. You don't have a surplus. But also it can be defined in terms of, peasantry can be defined in terms of using rudimentary means. You are using your labor, you're using rudimentary tools, you're depending on land. Yes, it is a sine qua non backwardness, as the president used to call it, by resenting backwardness. But ideally, we should be moving our population, and that's why we should welcome the game changers like the skillings. When a son of a peasant becomes a plumber, becomes a carpenter, becomes an engineer, you are no longer a peasant by definition. Because you now you are entering more of service industry. When we developed the tourism I talked about in ATMs, when you talk about science and technology, you will recently we had a science week, Dr. Msenora and others, we are basically saying for a country to transform, we must see less people depending on agriculture, going into agro-processing industry, as a launch pad to industrialize, to manufacture, and then go to services. But we should not make a mistake of saying, because developed countries have more people in services, industries, and manufacturing, that the agriculture sector must know we need it. Food is very important, but most countries also use the agriculture as a launch pad. So it's also important to explain this trajectory that yes, when the country is developed, you're going to have more people. For example, in developed countries, you find only 2.2 to 3% is feeding the country, is in agriculture. But still government gives them a lot of protection, a lot of subsidies to make sure that they produce. Actually, for China, it's even a security matter. Whereas they are sophisticated in ICT, they are going in robotics, artificial intelligence, and all this service industry. They are intentional to make sure that food production still remains.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Doctor, you highlighted these challenges and the solutions, but the challenges that have persisted, what do you think is the reason why they are persistent?
Actually, the president has diagnosed
the causes. Okay.
First of all, he indicates that the way Ugandans use their land
is one way that keeps us in the subsistence farming.
It keeps them stuck into poverty.
Okay.
One, land is fragmented highly, and so you can't use mechanization. Two, land has become old and there are no efforts of fertilizing it. Then the president has also indicated that the cost of doing business is still high in the country, the cost of money. There are so many businesses that are collapsing because of the high cost of doing business. That's why you see that the government is intervening in very many ways, including microfinances and the parish development model, the Uganda Development Bank and UDC.
Okay.
Then there is a challenge that the president keeps talking about, the poor choice of enterprise,
okay.
poor enterprise selection,
okay.
where you find someone owning a very small piece of land, but he has chosen to grow sugarcane, which is supposed to be for people who have wide and vast ranges of land.
Good acres.
Yes, but also the skill gaps. You find that it's a challenge that we are trying to address, but it persists because there is a mismatch between some of the people that we have trained and the existing jobs within the labor market.
Thank you,
These are
Doctor.
some of the issues that have been
can you explain to us the concept of demographic dividend and its importance to Uganda's future for my viewer watching?
So demographic dividend is just like any other dividend. A dividend is an economic benefit after investing. So tagging it to demography, it means that those benefits that you get out of your population after making strategic investments in the people. Now, there are quite a number of indications to show that you're harnessing the demographic dividend. And one of them is that you have a bigger population that is in labor market. It is skilled and it is in working age. And you have a smaller population that depends on the working population.
Okay.
That is one of the indications. The other indication is a decline in fertility rate, where people start choosing to have families that they can afford, not having families by chance, but they have families by choice.
Okay.
Then the other one is having an appropriately and healthy, appropriately skilled population is another signal that you're harvesting the demographic dividend. Now, a demographic dividend does not just arise. It arises out of intended investments and directed investments, including access to quality social services.
Exactly. There. I have access to reproductive health services and education in demographic dividend.
Yes.
What is the role of access to reproductive health services in as far as demographic dividends are concerned? Connect that before I go to Honorable.
So reproductive health means that you support families to have children that they wish to have,
Okay.
to have children with those they wish, with whom they wish to have those children, and at particular times when they want to have those children. And so reproductive health entails supporting families to plan their families. People misinterpret family planning and they just restrict it to using contraceptives. But I always like the definition of Dr. Joseph Muvawala, our executive director. For him, he says family planning means having children you can afford to cater for. So if a household is able to cater for 100 children, still that is family planning. If my household can only take children to, take only 2 children to school, manage to
you assess your capacity,
yes, so
and get to know this is what I can handle.
Yes, so the different services that you provide for this family to have the children that they wish to have, and at the opportune moment they want to have them, is reproductive health. But also, reproductive health is about helping young people to stay in school, by keeping them away from teenage pregnancies and child marriages. And I told you that government strategy now is to keep children for at least 11 years in school, for them to complete primary and as well 4 years of secondary education at the minimum.
Yes.
And that is why it has put in place various kind of interventions to facilitate that seamless access.
Honorable, I think this connects with what you were saying, that previously mothers would give birth to between 8 to 10 children, but now it is around 4.5.
Yes. First of all,
can we conclude that there has been access to this information of family planning and reproductive health?
Let me first give a caution. We should not look at it just in terms of population control. You are aware that countries like China, who had a one-child policy, had to switch it off about 12, 15 years ago, when they realized that 4 middle-class engineer, doctors, grandparents had only one grandchild. Because 2 powerful people would get one boy, and the others also get one girl, and they get one child, and it has challenges with the labor, it has challenges with... So, whereas we want to take that dimension, for us, using our census, we already have the numbers.
Okay.
We know that 50% of our population is young, and most of them school going. So what you have to be intentional to make sure that to produce, to turn this number into quality, you educate them, you keep them in school, but also give them relevant, appropriate skilling, so that when they come out, they are not job seekers, they are job creators.
Okay.
So that, as a country, that we are intentional, even NDP for, and I think in the 10 growth strategy, is to make sure that we can turn what others call population burden into a solution, because it's also important to be aware that within our community, not the Catholic Church and other churches are saying population control, not our kingdoms are talking about population control, and not even us as government. So aware of that, it is better that you deal with the problem as it is, that these numbers can actually be quality numbers, educated people. Educated people make a choice.
So what activities have we had, Honorable, towards the 11th of July, and what else is
first, allow me to
coming up?
There's one important question you asked.
Yes.
Why we are not getting the best out of our in terms of what as a country we produce, and we remain stuck. The president has condemned the issue of exporting value. We don't refine our goods, so we export jobs. Okay. The president has now said no more export of minerals without refining them. There have been so many foreign companies doing big jobs here, leaving us with very little content. So there are areas there we are looking at. Then when you add in the issues of Pan-Africanism, East African Community Market, African Continent Free Trade Area, if we can do interconnection, really the wealth will remain in Africa. So there is a structural problem whereby the colonial state has deliberately been taking value out of Africa. So we must be intentional as Africa, we must be intentional as East African community, and our president being one of the leaders in this agenda to make sure that we retain most of this value. But back to your very important, the pre-events and the actual day. Once again, we want really to appeal to all Ugandans to that come Friday, 11th July, we shall be at Usana in Kayunga. The whole world will be celebrating the Population Day, in particular Uganda, where our president will bless the occasion. There are so many events running right now. We have identified there's some school competitions going on. There is debate about population issues. There is sports activities going on. There's blood donation campaign and drives. There is a lot of maternal health talks going on. Some people will get mama kits. Quite a lot of activities are going on. There's a dialogue on Wednesday. There'll be a dialogue in Kayunga. So quite a lot of activities are going on. On Tuesday, we are again at Media Center to make yet another brief towards this day. It is important that we do understand that the importance of appreciating the challenges that we have as a country with a young, by the one of the fastest growing population in the world. It is also important to make sure that we don't look, for example, the issue I've been emphasizing, we need to look, if you make people aware of their challenges, of their destination, then it is important that we work towards that. But for us as a National Planning Authority, we must once again appreciate government and more so UBC. This is the first time National Planning Authority is in charge of the Population Day since the rationalization gave us the other mandate of not only the socio-economic planning, but now including the issues of population issues, plus National Physical Development Plan. So we are happy as National Planning Authority that Cabinet has already discussed this. They were supposed to have been a presentation in Parliament, much as they were going to for recess, but we'll invite everybody and to come for this very important function in Kayunga at Usana, but most importantly, for people to appreciate that population is very important, demographic issues are very important, because it's about the quality of life, the education, the health, the water, and also gender issues. More so it brings out the issues of youth, issues of women. So we really want to rally everybody.
Thank you so much, Honorable.
For this very important.
His name is the Honorable Stephen Birahwa Mkitale, the Executive Board Member, National Planning Authority. And on my immediate left is Dr. Hamis Mugendawala, Senior Manager, Population and Social Sector Planning, still at the National Planning Authority. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the time and the information we have shared.
Thank you so much.
To you watching, my name is Michael Judan Lukoma with the whole team here. I wish you the best of the night. Don't miss the news in just a few seconds from now. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
I did do this job.
They get the MTN caller tunes.